What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday and welcome to another video. I am super stoked about this one. It's been a couple of weeks in the making now, but later today we are going to go out to Unify Health and meet up with Shauna Brown, the owner there, and she's going to walk us through some of their wellness and recovery options for athletes and give us a rundown of the benefits for athletes and for just everyday people who enjoy working out as well. So yeah, I'm super stoked for that, and I really think that it couldn't have come at a better time after having to take a couple of days off of training to try and let my body recover a bit and catch up. So I'm very stoked on that, and that will be coming later in the video today. I'm going to be there at 3 p.m. So it's about 11:30 now. I've had a nice slow morning. I woke up about 6 o'clock and I was not ready to get up. My body said, nope, we need more sleep. So I was smart once again, listened to the body, and just went back to sleep for a couple of hours and got up around 9. Took the boys out for a nice walk, came back in, made myself a smoothie for breakfast, and yeah, just enjoying a nice, slow, chill morning. I thought I would point out just a couple things that I like to do when I'm in recovery mode. I have a very ADHD brain, but also I can get, I can get a little out of whack if everything around me isn't clean and organized. So one of the first things that I like to do if I'm taking a recovery day is make sure everything is as it should be in my home environment. I like to try and do a little bit of basic cleaning, make sure the bed is made, my clothes are put away, just keeping things nice and tidy and organized, because that helps your brain stay tidy and organized and helps you function. I, for one, if everything around me is dirty and out of place, it's hard for me to get into a groove and get to where I need to be. So that's one of the main things I like to focus on. And another thing is keeping my nutrition good. You know, a lot of people, if we're having a day off or a recovery day, we might end up eating some things or a lot of things that we don't normally eat. And personally, I've found that just sets me back further, and I need a couple easy days of training to get back into things after taking recovery days, which kind of defeats the purpose. So I like to still start my mornings off with a nice big recovery smoothie with protein and athletic greens. AG1 is one of my daily staples, just to make sure that I'm getting all the nutrients and the micronutrients that my body needs, as well as hydration with electrolytes. I use Element personally, not sponsored, although Element, if you're watching, hook your boy up, come on. But I use Element pretty much religiously. If I don't need calories for training, I'll use Element to hydrate before and after runs, or during sauna sessions. And then when I'm training, I like to use Scratch Labs. With 3 scoops of Scratch Labs, I can get 1,200 milligrams of sodium and then get some calories and carbs in as well, which keeps me nice and fueled up and ready for those next big workouts. So that's kind of been my nutrition plan here lately, and it seems to be going pretty well, aside from needing a couple days off here. But I know deep down that part of that was just upping my volume. here lately. As you've noticed, I've been going back to the gym again in the evenings and doing a second session, which if I do most days on the treadmill, 5 extra days at 4 extra miles per day puts me at 20 extra miles per week. And I've done that almost the last 2 weeks, almost every day. So that put a pretty big increase on my mileage, as well as I haven't been getting enough sleep. And I know that's the case, but it's just one of those things that sometimes you have to sacrifice a little bit of sleep to get things done. And I'm kind of juggling a lot right now. I know there's other people that have more on their plate, but I wake up, I train, I come home, I eat, then I go to work. As soon as I get off work, I go back to the gym and get the second training in for the day. And then I come home, I eat, and edit video and try and spend some time with the family. And then I go to bed and do it all over again. But most days, it's hard for me to get everything done before 10 p.m. And so then it's usually about 11 before I'm falling asleep. So I usually only get 6, maybe 7 hours of sleep, which most of the time is enough. But I guess here recently it quite hasn't been. So figuring it all out and just giving myself grace along the way. But those are a couple things that I like to focus on. Oh, and also breath work. Can't forget the breath work. Breath work just always brings me back to center. And also the Wim Hof breathing that I do. It's one of those things where you're kind of almost hyperventilating. You're doing these real deep diaphragm breaths. And so it kind of gets your body used to that fight or flight response a little bit. So I love that to get me ready for training, because when you're in the middle of a hard interval, your brain definitely goes to some dark places and it hits that fight or flight mode. And so being prepared for that is crucial. And it's only going to help you as an athlete, and it's only going to help you as a person when you inevitably hit those little speed bumps throughout your day. So those are just some of my essentials that I keep in my toolkit, ready to go, even on days when I'm not training, because I know it's going to just help me get ready for those next big sessions and prepare mentally, and also just absorb everything that's happened in the last week. So I hope that helps, guys, and hope it gives you a little bit of a guide to what you should be doing and focusing on. And it may look completely different for you, but find the things that work for you and stick to those things, because consistency is always king. So plan for the day. Like I said, it's 11:40 right now. So I don't have a ton of time. I need to leave here around 2 to head for that video shoot. So I'm thinking, now that my smoothie has kind of digested a bit, I'll take Yogi out to the dam and we'll get some easy miles in. And then I'll come back here, shower up, and get ready to head down there. Work on some wellness and recovery. I love you guys. Hope you're having a great morning so far. Let's rock this day.
I feel great. Simplify the things that I complicate. We can cash out, lock it in, move it to the country, it's no debate. No stress, but I wanted to see you change. No stress, but I wanted to see you I see the killer in your eyes. Your knife meets my skin. I meet my demise. I keep it concise. You made it very clear you're here for no good. Now I know you're no stress, but I wanted to see you change.
Just wrapping up with the morning run here. Ended up with 6.09 miles, 47 minutes, 58 seconds at a 7:53 per mile average pace, and average heart rate was 144 beats per minute. Yeah, great run. Felt really good to get out and get moving again after a couple days off. I was planning to keep it pretty light and easy, but I was feeling good, so I decided to kind of make it more of an easy, moderate pace, kind of mid to upper end zone 2. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. Feeling really good. And yeah, gonna head to the house now, take a shower and get dressed. And then I am headed to Unify to meet up with Shauna and get a little content for you guys there. Let's get along with it. I love you guys. I hope you're having a great day so far. What's up, guys? So I'm here with Shauna at Unify Health, and we're gonna get down to some of the best recovery and wellness tips for runners, athletes, and just weekend warriors, whatever you may be into. So yeah, I'm here with Shauna. I'm gonna let her introduce herself, and we'll get things going.
Hi guys, my name is Shauna Brown. I own Unify Health and Fitness. So we're located in a suburb of kind of South Phoenix called WOOTD. But we are a wellness boutique, meaning that we offer everything from performance training in small group formats to one-on-one sessions to recovery services like saunas, cold plunges, red light, compression boots, all the things. Our biggest thing is that we do a lot of like personalized coaching. So we believe that all of these recovery tools are awesome, but they have to be used at the right time, the right duration for the right person. So a little bit about my background. I am formerly a healthcare provider as a licensed athletic trainer. I'm also a massage therapist and a strength and conditioning coach. So I've kind of integrated a lot of different kind of modalities into building out my place, Unify. I worked in professional sports, so I've worked with professional baseball players, NFL players, Olympic athletes, a lot of track and field, endurance runners, as well as winter Olympic athletes, and working with them on a lot of the recovery tools that I offer here, but also a lot of hands-on manual therapy to work through different training, different recovery strategies, and then also just getting them as injury-free as possible through their races and sports seasons. So we'll go through like a 3-point assessment that I like to take people through, and it's a great thing you could do in the morning to kind of see how your joints are feeling. Okay. And then that helps you and allows you to kind of like dig into what you need to like work on your own. So the first position I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you come down to a kneeling position. I'm going to show it from the side, but I'll have you come hands on the ground, knees on the ground. You're going to curl your toes under, knees shoulder width apart. And then I'm gonna have you just sit back as far as you can and just start to notice what your knees are feeling like, your feet are feeling like. I know you mentioned a little bit in your heel right now. So how does that feel? What are you getting feedback-wise?
It feels fine. Yeah, I just feel some pressure in the ends of my toes.
Toes, got it. Yeah, and then kind of walk your hands closer to your knees and then see if you can like come up all the way. Can you curl your toes under? A little stiff, a little stiff. Okay, so flip around to the side so that they can kind of see you. So from here, I'll show some interventions on how you can target the bottom of your feet a little bit more. Because you're getting some friction and some irritation at your heel and through your Achilles and ankle, this will be like a good way that you can start to kind of reassess. So then now unhook your toes, and then we're just gonna stretch out the front of the shins and just kind of see how that feels. Feel okay? Any hot spots?
No.
Feeling pretty good? Yeah. Knees are bending super well. Sometimes you'll get, if you're getting a lot of like knee pain, patellar tendon, that's gonna kind of give us some feedback there too. So that's the first assessment, is just getting into a kneeling position without shoes on, without socks on, just so that you can feel how your foot is doing. The second one is up here. So it's your traditional like hip flexor stretch. We're working and we're trying to stretch both one of your quad muscles that attaches to your knee and your hip, but also your hip flexors as a whole. So what I'll have you do is you'll come to a kneeling position. You're gonna actually hook the back leg. So I'll show it real quick just so you can kind of easily see it. So your left knee will be down. You're gonna hook the back foot as high as you can. The goal is to get the head, the shoulder, the knee, and the hip nice and straight. You're gonna squeeze your butt and you're just gonna feel how far back you can go. If you notice kind of your pelvis has to rock forward, that's just telling us that the hip is super tight. So we just gotta spend a little bit more time. So maybe wiggle the back foot down so that you're in a little bit more of that neutral position. So let's take a look. We'll do both sides, of course. So start
focusing on the pelvic tilt.
Yeah,
really
absolutely, yeah. So that posterior tilt. So getting that engagement through the hip flex or the glute is gonna actually get that better stretch through the hip flexor. If you go here, you can also hold on to that for a little. So squeeze the glute, yeah, perfect on that left side, nice and tall. And then see if you can just like lean back just a little bit, maybe bring your butt to your heel. How's that feeling?
Good. It's
you feel it decent?
Tight through the quads
okay.
for sure, but yeah, everything feels good.
Awesome. And then let's switch sides and we'll do the other side. Again, same setup. It might feel a little different, right? Side to side. Running's a single leg activity, so we got to make sure both sides are working at the same starting position. And typically that's where those imbalances start to show up. So how do you feel here?
About the same.
About the same?
Tightness in the quads for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything feels pretty good.
So is it the left or right heel?
It's
that's
the
been
left.
One? Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. Perfect. Awesome. And then just squeeze your right glute pretty well. So just to show you how to get into that optimal hip flexor stretch. Mm-hmm. So if you squeeze your glute, yep, nice and hard. So it's actually then tilt your pelvis backwards, which is going to put more of a stretch on the front of the hip or the hip flexor.
For sure.
And then you can obviously make this even harder by increasing the angle of your knee, so more flexion, by bringing your butt closer to your heel and get closer to the back wall.
For sure.
But not everyone has a ladder like this. So I love to use like an ottoman, a wall. There's obviously fancy stretch cages like I do or some type of box, but just finding that leverage point. But start in a more modified foot down on the ground and you can progress up to this position. This is typically where people in that half kneel position find to be really easy, but as you start to hook the foot back, it makes it a little harder.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Doing those prolonged holds, I think that's a great one too, like post running, is finding kind of a routine that you can do some more active dynamic things before you run, but then also at the end is just doing some prolonged stretching that target more of just like lengthening out the tissue. Mm-hmm. Then we'll kind of get into more of that joint range of motion stuff here in a bit. So slowly come out of there. So the third kind of checkpoint is looking at rotation of your hip. So you don't always see it when you're watching somebody run, but it's a huge, huge vital sign for joint health. So what you'll do is it's called a hip 90-90. So you're going to start, I like to start people kind of in this like butterfly position here, and then you're actually gonna swing your left leg back, and then you'll bring your right leg forward. Perfect. So it's 90-90, so right hip, bone, and then that right knee's straight out from there. The right knee, and then the right foot. And then the same thing with the back leg. I want the foot in line with the knee. Okay. So it's 90 degrees there. Perfect, perfect. And then we can see, let's kick this foot out just a little bit more. And then we're going back to that pelvic position where just initially, what are you feeling?
Little tightness right in here, but okay. Otherwise I feel pretty good.
Perfect, yeah. Okay. So front hip is going through full external rotation. The back hip is going through internal rotation. So pretty common with some restriction through the hip. The back hip sometimes is what people feel the most. Or if you're super tight through kind of the deeper glute muscle, you're going to start to see that like leg lift. But you just want to be able to sit and breathe in this position. So this is a good first step to see like how you're doing, how you're feeling with kind of full external, so that out, the hip moving out, and then the hip moving in internal rotation. So let's do the same thing on the other side. So come into butterfly, and then you'll switch sides. So now your left leg's in front of your right. Perfect. Awesome. Get that 90-90.
In line with the knee.
And then what are you feeling there?
About the same. This
Okay.
one might be a little more tight.
Tight? Okay.
Yeah. Usually when I do hip things like this, my hips just start to like cramp up
Yeah,
really bad.
absolutely. So it's not necessarily like the traditional cramp of like you're missing out on electrolytes, right? When you get into new positions, especially in mobility training where we're really trying to focus not just on the tissue, but the joint itself, that's going to be the first thing is your body and your nervous system's going to be like, hold up, like you haven't done this before, right? And for runners, like probably not, right? So we just want to make sure that like you're breathing through it. You can always make this a little easier, right, by bringing the knee in. The other thing that I like to do when people are first starting in this movement is to slide something under here. So obviously you're able to maintain upright posture, right? But if for those who are not, having something up here, it kind of just takes you out of that full end range for you so that you're able to like just be here relaxed in that position. Perfect. And then come on out of there. So to go back to one of the starting kind of like things that we were talking about was when he was down in that kneeling position, curling the toes under, is that the inability, right, of those toes and that stiffness a lot of times is coming through the stiffness all the way up the chain. So not just at the foot and the plantar fasciitis, but all the way up through, up to your butt. And so your plantar fasciitis is getting a lot of that irritation. Okay, so to address some of the stiffness in your foot that we kind of found in that kneeling position is I'm going to have you just start to load your foot a little bit. So there's a couple tools that I like to use. One is just like a traditional ball. It could be like a little cross ball. I like this one by Naboso just because the little stimulations affect your brain. So you're getting a lot more feedback and input because you have a lot of nerve endings on your foot. So if we can start to address that and give your foot a little bit different environment, it starts to respond a little bit differently and hopefully starts to relax and relax the pain in the heel. So if you just take the ball and you just start rolling, you're gonna start at the heel, especially right at the heel is one thing, but when you start to go right at the base of the heel, right where kind of that tissue attaches, like coming forward just a little bit right through there. Yeah. And then working your way all the way up to your toes. It's super simple and easy. You can take this anywhere, but I think a lot of people like neglect their feet. And obviously running is a huge lower body activity, especially on the trails. So doing anything you can to like work your feet. So something like this, and then actually like kind of pushing your balls of your feet are gonna be on the ground, and then just kind of like loading and kind of pushing through. You don't have to spend hours upon hours, but doing your own self-tissue work is really helpful. So that's one point. The other one, there's a lot of these different like rock pads. And this gets into, there's the loading that we were talking about earlier. So if you stand on top of the rock pads,
Any particular way?
nope, just kind of stand on. You can stay there. Might be a little sensitive, but
Should I go both feet on?
yeah, go both feet on. Yeah, and then you could stay still. For some, this is going to be super sensitive if you're not used to being barefoot. But then if you can start to just kind of like shift side to side. There's a bunch of different size and textures of the rocks on that plastic pad. So you can just start to have your foot kind of feel the different textures. But this kind of opens up the feet. It gives you a little bit more engagement. And then if you're going through kind of more of like your stretching mobility routine, if you do strength train in an environment that is safe to be barefoot, it does give you a lot more feedback, especially jumping and things is obviously like shoes are great for that. But when we're talking about loading through your joints and doing like true strength training, it's awesome to be barefoot for that because you can really feel and get the feedback of the ground of where your foot is in space. So that's helpful too.
Definitely feel this digging into my planners for sure.
Yeah, right? You're like, yep, I'll feel it. I'll feel it. I also, like, if you just need a quick, like, fix, is you can just take a small plastic water bottle, fill it up with water, freeze it, and then you can just, like, roll out that way if you just need something quick.
Yeah.
But, like, Trigger Point, they make a lot of those great tools where you can reuse them over and over again.
Right.
So that's nice, but...
I usually use my Theragun first thing.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
That is like my favorite thing to do is to get some vibration therapy, like through your foot. But again, that's like waking up the nerves on the bottom of your feet. And then you add some, like if you add some of the loading and then do the gun work, and then start to get into like working some of the joint specific stuff, I think you'll see a huge difference. So a big part I think that runners need to focus on is mobility training. So there's a term mobility, which is joint specific, right? So it's thinking about the tissue, but also how well your joints move. Right. And then there's flexibility, right? Where we all know that to be like the long passive stretch hold, kind of what we did up against the wall here. But what I love most is a movement kind of philosophy called functional range conditioning, because what it does is it's working active range of motion, which we all need as human beings, but athletes need it even more. And then it also addresses the deep joint work. So I think of doing this type of like car patterns as like flossing. Just like we floss our teeth, we need to affect our joints as well. So I'll kind of take you through a lower limb series that you can kind of do. So I would first and foremost like start with your tissue, do some rollouts using the gun, but then we want to start to actually like move the joints. And not only is it a great way to gain some mobility and some active range of motion, but you can also see how well your joints are moving. So the test can be actually the exercise in and of itself. So it starts to give you more feedback about your own personal body. So if we start at the ankle joint, so your subtalar joint, so I'll have you go, like your left knee will stay bent, your right heel will come up. So what you'll do is you're going to start with just pointing your toes down. So the goal is we're trying to isolate this ankle joint in and of itself. Everything else stays pretty still. And then you'll point your toes down. Then you're going to start to circle down and around, coming up towards your shin and going all the way down to that starting position. And then you're going to actually reverse, going the opposite way. So you'll go one direction, trying to keep it really specific to that subtalar joint. And then, then you'll reverse, going the opposite way. Now, what I want you to do is bring your hands up, and try to limit as much as that tibia moving. Okay. So you're gonna keep this as much blocked as possible. Yep, and then try to do those circles. So you're gonna get a little motion, right. But if you just kind of slow down just a little bit, yep. We're trying to work those nooks and crannies. What are you feeling?
Feels pretty good. Trying just to
go slow.
On not moving my.
It's the hardest part.
My calves and tibia.
So 5 to 10 is a good range. It's not like you're spending multiple minutes each joint on this. This is just getting both ranges of motion, thinking of you're working your outer range, and then every time you're trying to go just a little bit further, whether you are or not, who knows, right? But that's the goal, is to try to stay more isolated to that specific joint you're working on and just trying to go with nice, slow control.
Just getting a little more activation each time. Hopefully.
Absolutely, yeah. And the more that you do these types of patterns, the easier they get to isolate that area. But it takes a little bit because there's a lot of like brain-foot connection there. Right. So perfect. So now we're going to go up into what's called dorsiflexion, just bringing our toes up towards our shin. Mm-hmm. You're going to take your hands, slide down your kneecap to find that little bony spot. Yep. And then you're going to actually rotate your shin out. Okay. And then rotate your shin in. This is called tibial rotation, so it's part of a healthy knee joint. So again, just taking assessment of trying to limit or actually prevent any like femur upper thigh bone motion, and then rotate in there. Perfect. So all the movement should be like right. You're gonna feel those muscles work, but you're gonna actually feel that bone moving out as your foot moves out, and then in as your foot moves in. You feel that? Yeah. Perfect. So now you're going to take that right arm, raise lift the thigh up, and then bring the right hand on the left elbow. So it kind of hooks you so you don't have to work too hard for this. The left hand will come over back to that kind of bony spot. Okay. Then you're going to rotate out just like we were doing. Now we're adding extension. So you're going to try to straighten your knee up as far as you can, and then rotate in, and then bend the knee back down. So externally rotate, extend, internally rotate, bend. You're gonna get a lot of snap, crackling, popping. It is okay. That's called crepitus.
Probably get a lot of that out.
Yeah, it's good. Hey, new movements, good stuff.
Yeah.
And then now we'll do the opposite. So you're going to rotate in and then straighten the knee up, rotate out, bend back down. So biggest limiter are the hamstrings, right? Unless you're a professional dancer or have extremely loose hamstrings, like it's totally normal to have that. But again, it's just about being slow and controlled with it and getting that active range. You can, again, make it a little bit easier, right? This is a deep angle for your hip, but if you like are laying on your back a little bit more supported, you can change the position a little bit. So the next one is up at the hip. Okay, so we're gonna isolate the hips. So what I'll have you start to do is you're gonna lift your left leg up, and you're gonna bring your left knee towards your left elbow here. Okay, so notice you have full hip flexion, but you're gonna keep this back nice and flat. So flatten that right there, good. And then bring the knee out, and then you're gonna circle back and around, coming back, beautiful, come back in, and then keep that tension, and then bring the knee up. Drive it out and reach high towards that left elbow. Again, we're trying to keep everything still through that upper body. Perfect. And then swing back around. And then we're going to do that again. So left knee to left elbow. So knee to chest. Yeah. Up, out. Yep. And then swing around, swing around. You're going to feel a lot of work through here, which is your hip capsule. Obviously, muscles, all that attached to your joints, but we're really trying to work those transition periods of flexion to abduction, internal rotation, and then as you go back, you're extending. Yeah. Perfect. How are you feeling?
Feels good.
You cramping yet?
No, surprisingly not.
Perfect. So a couple ways when you're doing this at home to keep you a little bit more honest is I like to put a foam roll or whatever you have on at home on your back to give you feedback. So this is a lot of times people want to rock their pelvis. So if I place this on his low back, I'm going to have you go up and do the same thing, but now it's giving you feedback on where it is in space. So this is a little bit heavier, but if I start to add something a little bit lighter, that's easier to slide off, then it starts to get a little trickier. So then it could be a slider, right? It could be pretty much anything that you have at home that can give you feedback. Do you feel that, how it is? That's probably really unfair, but that's okay.
I assume this particular motion will give you a lot of good opening in your stride.
Absolutely, right? It'll allow exactly your hip to fully extend and then for that knee to be able to fully drive up. A lot of times, right, as runners, focusing on the running pattern, that forward backwards, you forget how much your body actually moves and is required to move side to side and rotationally. Right. That's why so many of us believe so strongly in strength training and cross training is getting you moving in the positions that you're not moving, right, frequently in running, but you're actually doing it at like the microscopic level. Right. That's why it's one of the biggest injury prevention opportunities is getting you moving outside of that traditional sagittal plane of running. Awesome. You can relax now. So you'll come into that kneeling position again, and then you're going to shoot your right foot straight out. So your foot, I want your foot fully flat on the ground, your toes are pointed straight forward. So this is the starting position, right? For some, this might be really, really hard. But then you're going to start to rock back there. As you rock back, you're going to feel kind of more of your adductors. You have one that's your adductor magnus, so you'll kind of feel that stretch a little bit more. And then you'll rock forward. As you rock forward, you can start to walk your hands forward and drive your hips to the ground. So you can start to see what your pelvis is doing in order to try. Yeah, so just keep everything straight and just don't worry about how far you're moving back and forth, but just trying to keep your pelvis, as straight as possible. Depending on what level of runner you are, right, you start, the World Wide Web is an amazing thing, but it also is a really bad thing because you're getting these training programs, you're seeing people train, but like everyone is so different with what they need for their training. Right. And for someone like you, right, it's getting really intentional with your training because you spend all of your day on your feet working, right? It's the same with a lot of the semi-pro athletes that I dealt with, is that they have to pay for life, right? They're not sponsored. So, and the pro athletes can handle maybe different volumes based off their age and what they're doing and their goals. But a lot of the everyday people that I work with think that they should be running the mileage that these professional runners are running.
Right.
And it's like, but your life isn't the same. And then you add stress and sleep and kids and all the things and previous injuries and things onto your plate. And all of a sudden, like, that's when your body starts to break down. So it's getting somebody who can help you manage your volume and your training, not just to write a plan out for you, but also to help you navigate through it, your whole training cycle. So as you can probably attest to, how when you run and then having like a full day of, like a full week of work, like how does your body feel, or what do you do?
It probably changes day by day,
Yeah,
too. Like, what do I
it's
have
good.
time for this morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's hurting this morning?
Yeah, but that's the key, right? Is like, okay, so you have something on paper of like what the goal is and where you're at in your training cycle, but then it's like, okay, today my heel's hurting, my legs are tired, this, that, or the other. And sometimes the best thing you can do in a training program is to like adjust the plan.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes pushing through just to get the miles for miles' sake will put you back,
right,
versus like propelling you forward. So I usually will lean into like lower impact options. Maybe your body is just needing recovery. So then putting inputs in that help you recover, then that will be like kind of one of the biggest breakthroughs you can have. So then the next week when you start to hit those miles again, you're going to feel better.
Right.
So yeah.
Pivot and adjust.
Pivot and adjust. I love it. That's good. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Cool.
What an amazing experience getting to meet Shauna and have her do some work on me and teach me a little bit more about activation and mobility. I highly recommend anyone that's in the Phoenix area, living or visiting, go to Unify Health, work with Shauna, and utilize the amazing protocols and systems that she has in place for athletes and anyone looking to increase their fitness, knowledge, strength, and mobility. Shauna is amazing, super professional, and very, very knowledgeable, and can help anyone take their game to the next level. Thank you so much to Shauna and Unify Health for letting us come in, and I can't wait to continue working together. I hope you guys thoroughly enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and also let me know how long you thought I lasted in the ice bath, and I'll let you know who gets it right in the comments. I love you all. Onward and upward. Let's keep on chasing greatness. See you guys next time.